Yeah, so today we are here for our annual general meeting following the conference, and I want to thank those of you who are at the conference and continue to stay, and those of you who have joined us for this event. Just a reminder, I don't know if you started with that, Shauna, but the meeting should be recorded, and the recording will be posted to our YouTube channel. If you do not want to be recorded in the recording, what you can do, if you click on your name on Zoom, you can change your name there, and you can turn the camera off. Otherwise, it will be recorded. And I'd like to start us off with a land acknowledgement. I know that there was an elder giving a blessing for the conference today, but for those of us who are now joining on Zoom, from coast to coast, we acknowledge the traditional and ancestral ceded and unceded territories of First Nations people, the Inuit, the Métis, the people that call all these lands home. We reaffirm our commitment and responsibility to care for the lands, strengthen our relationship with Indigenous people, and improve our own understandings of their unique histories, homelands, languages, and cultural practices. The in-person meeting for the AGM takes place on the unceded territories of the Kaikai First Nation. I know many of you have already introduced yourselves, but if you'd like to add a land acknowledgement in the chat, please do. In addition to the land acknowledgement, I'd also like to share words that Missy McLean, our board member for Ontario, has introduced us to recently. In addition to the land acknowledgement, it's critical that we acknowledge Canada's history of enslavement, racial segregation, marginalization, as it has had a devastating effect on the people of African descent, the African, Black and Caribbean communities across the country. Canada has neither recognized nor educated the public equally about the historical facts related to slavery and anti-Black racism it has produced. I would like to further place these acknowledgements within the context of the collective action we are engaged in as Mom Stop the Harm, because we cannot separate the legacy and existence of colonialism, white supremacy from the current crisis of criminalization and incarceration in Canada. And particularly the way in which criminalization of certain substances and people use substances disproportionately impact members of marginalized groups, including Black and racialized people, women, girls, gender non-conforming people, members of the 2S LGBTQIA+ communities, people experiencing poverty, people with disabilities, people experiencing homelessness, and all those who experience the oppression that exists in the intersection of the multiple social locations and identities.
Good morning, Petra. Can you hear me? This is Leslie. Can you hear me okay?
Hear you.
Yes, she's muted. Just go.
Oh, there's Stu.
I can hear you, Leslie. Yeah, we can hear you, Leslie.
Okay, Petra. Petra, I'm asking you if you could just give a little space here. We have an amazing woman who is going to sing and drum as an opening, another opening for our AGM. So, Dracy, could you come on up?
Okay, I will do that then. So the lady opening, I've heard a lot of. Hello, there we go. Okay, I've heard a lot of acknowledgement, land acknowledgement, and Indigenous. And although I appreciate the acknowledgement, as an Indigenous woman, we are the most, I am the most, I live a life so different from you all in this room. Julie and I. We fight our own struggle just like you do, but ours is tenfold with MMIW. And it's emotional, but you leave your house and you see RCMP and you think they're there to serve, where I don't have that privilege. And so you see a lot of acknowledgements being done. And although we appreciate those acknowledgements because that was something that was never done previously, it's almost skimmed over. When the truth of the matter is, the things aren't historical. They are still happening to me and my people. Our children are still being taken away. We are still being murdered. And you don't see that on the news. I really appreciated the communications presentation yesterday because it's so true. When you see an Indigenous person, you see us as wards of this country. You see us as protesting, freeloading alcoholics, and that's not who we are. So I acknowledge that this country has a lot to do, but it's really important for me today, before I sing this song to you, to acknowledge the fact that there is a cultural genocide happening to my people in this country. And I really want to encourage you all to really think outside the box. We have my people, my ancestors, my family, whose bodies are still being dug up. And nobody in this country is talking about that. We are at over 10,000 bodies now, and we still have over 100 schools left to go. Why isn't Canada talking about that? I encourage you all, because that's the real genocide that's happening in this country, and nobody's talking about that. And so, this song that I'm going to sing for you, it's a Cree song. I come from the Gitxsan Nation in Hazelton, Gitmax, to be precise. My dad comes from Manitoba. And this is a gift that I'm going to share with you. And when we gift something, we more or less barter. And so what I'm asking from you in return is that you really start to open your mind and your hearts about what is happening to Indigenous people in this country. It's not just about land acknowledgement, it's about what's happening. We have a cultural genocide on Indigenous people, on women, happening right now. You are all women. The only difference is we're being murdered. And nobody's talking about that. The song that I'm going to sing for you is called Wanaska. And it translates to, the sun is going to come up. The birds are already singing. But it has more of a profound, deeper meaning than that. With all the trials and the tribulations and the traumas that we go through, the Creator always still gives us a good gift to wake up. Every morning that you wake up, you have the gift to do something with that. So I encourage you that life is hard, but life is also beautiful, and you just have to work to find that. So I will sing the song for you. And again, I thank you, Leslie, for asking me and another lady to sing. And so, yeah, I appreciate you having me. pita panoma. Se pisisa kikakanoma. Imanukwan ketaskena wea hayo. Thank you. Thank you. And that's it. In case Leslie was finding another one.
That beautiful song. Unfortunately, for those of us on Zoom, we only caught the beginning of the song, but it was very powerful, very impactful, and we hear your voice, we hear it loud and clear, and we want to heed your words. So thank you so kindly for doing that. Now, beginning with the official part of our meetings, just a few words of greetings. It's been a very difficult year for many of us. During this year, we know that overdose and drug poisoning deaths across the country have gone up enormously, and the response from government has been a range of ignoring, doing the wrong thing, and doing a little bit of the right thing in some cases. We fought hard. We fought to get Bill C-216 decriminalization approved. More on that later. Unfortunately, the vote was not in our favor, but yet we have started the discussion. We have continued our work towards safe supply, working towards safe supply. And we will continue more of this in the year to come. As an organization, also, we are in a moment of change. As you will see later when we acknowledge outgoing members, some of our long-term members who've started this organization are no longer on our board and are being replaced by a talented and energetic team that is coming in. So we are in a process of change. We also are in a process where we are formalizing some of the things that we do. And with that formalization, again, comes a way of moving away a little bit from our grassroots to a more formal organization while still maintaining that grassroots spirit. So in this sense is where we will be holding our meeting today. I'd like to begin with the approval of the agenda. There is a small change on the agenda. Item 14 will be presented by Antoinette under agenda item 6, that be by Antoinette and Isabel. As Jenny said earlier, you find all the documents for today's meeting posted on our website, all except for the financial statement. You can get that from us if you email. There are paper copies available for those who are on site. So also, Shauna, if you could please pop a link to the page where the documents are, if anybody would like to download that. Now I'd like to ask for an approval of the agenda. If somebody'd like to move to approve the agenda. One of the board members.
It's Marie here. I'll move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Marie. Seconder. Outgoing board members can second too. As anyone, Angela?
Second.
Okay. Thanks, Angela.
Okay.
So everybody, you have a poll. You can vote, and then after you voted, you hit submit, and then we will see the results of the poll shortly. Thank you for that. And then the next thing is the minutes from last year. With the invitation, those were all sent out to you via the newsletter you received announcing the AGM. But once again, they're also on the website. I would like to ask somebody to move to approve the minutes from the AGM June 5, 2021. That was a virtual meeting.
It's Marie here again. I will move to approve the previous minutes from June 5th of 2021.
Thank you, Marie. Seconder?
I can second Angela.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. And once again, you get the routine. We have a poll. And now we have a presentation from our Stronger Together programs. First from Stronger Together Canada, we have Antoinette speaking. She's on site, thankfully. Antoinette Gravel-Ouellette and Isabelle Fortier. Isabelle will kindly translate the presentation in French. So we'll have a little introduction of our programs also in French then. So if whoever does the technology could once again get the podium and make sure that we ideally don't lose the sound. And they also have a PowerPoint, I understand.
Good morning. Yes, Petra, the PowerPoint was up. I'll need it back up. So that's my talking points. Good morning. I'm Antoinette Gravel-Ouellette. I am the Stronger Together Canada program coordinator, although I have a very French name. My husband is bilingual. I am not. And we have Isabelle, who is absolutely bilingual, who's going to do this with me this morning. Stronger Together program, as you can see on the slides, these are the headings from the websites. So if you decide to go check out the websites, there's the Holding Hope Canada and the Healing Hearts Canada. Next slide, please. And next slide. So this is the introduction of the Stronger Together team. Petra is the project lead. Sorry, I can't read it from over there, so I'm going back and forth. Tyla, who is not able to be here today, she happens to be in a different conference in the States right now. She is the program manager. I'm Antoinette. Susie McPherson-Durendi is our Indigenous lead. She's from Manitoba, and she comes from Cree Nation. And Isabelle, do you want to...
Donc, je suis là pour faire la traduction pour les membres francophones de partout au Canada, not only for Quebec, but throughout Canada.
Okay. And next slide, please. So a little bit of history, because there is Mom Stop the Harm Stronger Together BC, which Katie will talk about in a few minutes. And and she can give some of the history and things like that. So the Stronger Together Canada came out of last year. Mom Stop the Harm had received a grant from the federal government, the Substance Use and Addiction Program. And so last year, Stronger Together Canada was launched. So what that is, and is that for the rest of Canada, we are working on Holding Hope and Healing Hearts groups. And Holding Hope is a group, I think everybody here knows, but I'll just kind of, in case we have new people joining us online. Holding Hope is support groups for loved ones that have lost, loved ones still struggling and is in active addiction or in the process of recovery. Do you want me to stop or? We were talking about how are we going to do this, and I said, if I'm talking too much, just kind of nudge me in.
Donc, le programme Stronger Together existe depuis l'année dernière, a été financé par le programme de substances et d'utilisation, de dépendance, pardon, SWAP en anglais. Il existe deux groupes de soutien, le groupe Healing Hearts pour les familles endeuillées et le groupe Holding Hopes pour les familles dont un membre est soit en soins ou a consommé par le passé.
And the other groups that we do run across Canada are Healing Hearts, and those are for people that have lost a loved one due to drug poisoning or substance-related deaths. Next slide, please. So we started training last year. For the rest of Canada, we didn't have any Holding Hope groups, and we started training last May. Next slide. And we started with 0. We now have 13 across Canada. And we have 19 facilitators trained. And these are the areas that we currently have Holding Hope groups going. And there's also a flyer of this at the side if anybody's interested.
Donc, 13 groupes à travers le Canada, 19 animateurs qui ont été formés. Et prochainement aussi au Québec, il y aura des animateurs qui seront formés, entre autres en collaboration avec d'autres groupes sur le terrain, Paliami et la QP Sud, pour joindre les forces pour développer le programme pour les francophones au Québec.
Next slide, please. And these are the areas that we currently have facilitators in training that are up and coming. So these are the areas. So we have another 6 additional groups coming. Just wanted to highlight, we are going to have a virtual Holding Hope for Guys group coming in the fall. And that's exciting.
Donc, 6 groupes additionnels qui s'en viennent avec des animateurs qui sont formés, en plus d'un groupe spécifiquement destiné aux hommes qui sera le Hope for Guys. Yes, c'est le donc l'espoir pour les hommes, if we translate word for word. If we have to.
Québécois.
Québécois.
Next slide, please. And we have ongoing Healing Hearts training. Next slide. And in 2021, when we started with the SUOP grant, we had 4 groups going outside of BC, and now we have 13 support groups going and 16 people trained. And those are the areas that we currently have facilitators. And we do have a Canadian Indigenous Grief Sharing Circles. The language that Susie preferred to use is sharing circles. And in the fall, we are looking at, and we're going to be having a Healing Hearts, or sorry, that's on the next slide. And we also have virtual Healing Hearts group for across Canada. I forgot to mention in the Holding Hope, we also have a virtual Holding Hope group for those across Canada in remote and rural areas where there isn't currently a group running. No, you're good? Oh, sweet. Okay. Next slide, please. And coming soon, these are all the areas. So up in the Yukon, we have a facilitator trained who's working on starting a group. And these are so we have 8 Healing Hearts support groups coming. We also have Healing Hearts for Men, and that's coming in the fall, and Healing Hearts for siblings as well for across Canada. And so there's 8 facilitators currently in training.
Donc, plusieurs groupes encore en formation, un peu partout à travers le Canada. Et à l'automne, un groupe pour les hommes et aussi un groupe pour les frères et sœurs ou les proches d'une personne qui est décédée.
Next slide. The other thing that Stronger Together Canada started was Holding Hope Connect sessions and Healing Hearts Connect sessions. So those are sessions that are open to all Mum Stop the Heart members as well as all people in community, so general public. So these are some of the ones that have been taken place. The Weight of Air, David Poses, who unfortunately since doing the session with us has passed. Holding Hope connects with Guy Felicella. I wasn't aware of Guy. I'm from outside of BC, so I'm learning all about all these amazing people in BC. And having Corey Ranger and Ange Shea, who did a session on anticipatory grief for Holding Hope. So those groups are really part of the education and sharing information and really getting the word out there. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, did you need
It's okay.
Just elbow me.
I don't know if there's like that much French speakers who don't understand English who are attending, but
But they're online.
they're online, so.
And we also do Healing Hearts Connects. And so Shauna Jantz was amazing. And again, the same that Healing Hearts Connects is for Mum Stop the Harm members and also the general public. The other thing to note is that, and I think it's on the next slide, is all of these sessions are recorded and they are on the Mom Stop the Harm YouTube channel. So if people can't be in the session, the Zoom sessions are recorded and then they're uploaded to the YouTube channel so people can watch them, share them, let other people know, get the word out there.
Donc, toutes les sessions qui ont été données, les ateliers disponibles à tous en ligne, qui n'ont pas besoin d'être un membre d'un groupe Holding Hopes ou Healing Hearts, sont sur le site YouTube de l'association. Donc, vous pouvez les visionner à n'importe quel moment.
Next slide. Stronger Together also partnered with Hard Knocks Talks to do podcasts. And so, and that was, the Hard Knocks Talks is based out of Saskatchewan, and they do 3 shows a week talking, real people talking about real life experiences. No. Next slide, please. Some of the training that we do, and I, you know, hindsight's always 20/20. I thought, oh, that should have been up in my slide presentation, but nobody's perfect. So, so I provide some of the training for our facilitators. I've trained facilitators for about 16 years and offered groups for about 30 years in many different capacities. We also have some additional training with Dr. Max, Ophelia. We had an amazing session with Art with Anna, who did some art journaling as a way to shift some grief and doing it in a, she did a train the trainer with us, so our facilitators can now do that in their groups. And John Cooper Harder, who's with Center for Trauma and Resource Institute, has done some training, is going to continue to do some upcoming training with us in a session called Walking with Grief. He also does peer support, and he also, his area is around addiction. Next slide, please. Oh. So we're in need of facilitators everywhere. So I mean, and I think that'll be echoed by BC. So if people are interested in becoming a facilitator, because that's really how we're growing this across Canada. We know there's a lot more need out there. We know there's a lot more people to be touched. And I hear from people all across Canada wondering if there's a group in their area. And so we really encourage you, if you know people in other areas, please get in touch with us, because we are so thankful for the facilitators, because it's only through their dedication and through them coming that we can spread this across Canada. And it's really about caring for one another and about loving one another. And that's how we heal. And I think it's showing up for each other.
L'importance des groupes de soutien est plus que toujours de plus en plus important. Du côté francophone, surtout dans la région de Montréal, on est en train d'établir des liens avec des spécialistes qui vont pouvoir former les animateurs. Tous les documents de Healing Hearts et Holding Hopes ont été traduits en français, sont disponibles aussi à la demande des gens qui voudraient former des groupes. C'est pas nécessairement comme je disais, dans la province de Québec, mais ça peut être ailleurs aussi. Donc, les ressources en français sont disponibles. Et l'important, c'est de rejoindre les gens et de les soutenir dans leur deuil, mais aussi dans leur épreuve. Donc, n'hésitez pas à nous contacter pour qu'on vous mette en lien aussi avec les bonnes personnes pour monter les groupes de support.
Next slide, please. I think a lot of you are familiar with the Gone Too Soon booklet. BC, they were the originators, and we got permission to, all the context is still the same. We've just switched out the resources that are referenced in the Gone Too Soon, and had changed some of the stories so they are for that province. So currently we have one for Alberta, Manitoba, and Ontario. We have a francophone one, and we're in process of having one. So the hope is to have one for each province so that it can be given out to people that have experienced loss, and as a way to support them as a first initial piece, to be able to connect and to have something tangible to hang on to so that they have some direction.
Donc, le livret Parti trop tôt a été conçu par l'équipe de la Colombie-Britannique, mais est maintenant disponible dans chacune des provinces avec des ressources spécifiques à chacune des provinces. Il a été traduit en français aussi et est disponible à tous ceux qui en ont besoin.
Thank you. Next slide. So again, those are the websites. I'm sure everybody's familiar with them. The other thing that Peter had just mentioned this morning, because on part of the agenda was for me to go over some of that, and I'd said, well, I'm kind of already including it. But one of the other things just to mention was that as part of the strategic plan for Mom Stop the Harm under education was to take the lead in knowledge translation and reframing the understanding of substance use so that there's a shift in public opinion, which results in people having the power to make decisions. So the informational webinars offered throughout the year through the Connect series and Mom Stop the Harm align with the strategic plan, which focuses on the membership and on education, knowledge translation, and reframing of the understanding so that the public gets an understanding so that they can make informed choices. So a lot of that is bringing about awareness, because I know I'm from Manitoba and we are way behind the times on awareness. And so Mom Stop the Harm, one of their, like I said, strategic goals is to bring that awareness across Canada so we can heighten that.
Un des objectifs principaux de Mom Stop the Harm est aussi d'éduquer la population, de sensibiliser le public. Donc, une des grandes valeurs qui nous anime est celle-là. Et tout le travail qui est fait avec Holding Hopes et Healing Hearts va dans ce sens aussi, avec aussi les ateliers qui vont sensibiliser le grand public en général. Donc.
Okay, thank you. I guess that was that. That was it.
And Antoinette, for this great overview. We followed the lead of the Stronger Together BC programs, which were the first to implement these supports to families. All this really came about when we first started doing advocacy. I thought advocacy is where the focus needs to be, but it quickly became clear to all of us that in order to be strong advocates, we have to support one another, and that many people indeed come to us for support. And a small number will engage in advocacy. So responding to this need was really developing these groups. We initially started with Healing Heart groups. Angela Wells, one of our retiring board members, and Helen Jennings, who's now with the BC team. There were some of our pioneers, as was Jenny. Jenny Howard, our early pioneers with the Healing Heart programs, and really the Stronger Together BC and now Stronger Together Canada grew out of that. And to learn about what BC is doing, I'd like to welcome Katie Mai to the podium.
Sweet introduction. Thanks for the cheers. Hi, everyone. I've met many of you, but I think a lot of you, this is new, so I'll just introduce myself quickly. Can you hear me okay? I feel like the angle's a little awkward here. I'm Katie. I'm a first-generation settler on unceded Coast Salish territories. I've been here since 1997, and I'm so grateful to be here on Kakite First Nation, and I live, work, and play on Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nation. And I've known Leslie and Helen and Jenny for years. I actually used to be at the BC Centre on Substance Use, and then have since left. But my heart really is with these incredible women, with all of you, in doing this work. So when there was an opportunity for Stronger Together to be launched in BC, as you've learned, and you'll learn from me more, is really about supporting advocates, supporting you to be stronger in doing the tireless work that you're doing. I jumped on it, and just so grateful to be sharing about what we've been able to achieve and what we hope to achieve in the next few years. So thank you. So first slide, please, Dwayne. Or next one, please. So Antoinette said I would talk about history, but I actually hadn't planned to. I'll just mention this one thing that, as you all know, Mom Stop the Harm started as an advocacy organization to really change failed drug policy. But naturally, people started to come together and provide that peer support that you're not able to get from the healthcare system or the social system because it's not delivered by peers or people who've walked the path and who understand. And so the first Healing Hearts and Holding Hope group started in Victoria and had not had any funding, and so over time that effort and that value was really recognized by the provincial government in British Columbia, and that's how we labeled this project Stronger Together. We received some funding and was given the opportunity to expand these groups to reach more people, especially in communities that are outside of urban centers like Victoria or Vancouver. So just a brief introduction to who the team is, working very closely with Stronger Together Canada team as well. So Leslie, as you know, co-founded Mom Stop the Harm and had really been a pioneer of securing that funding to start the project. Myself, so Jenny now is, because she had started the Healing Hearts group, had really been the lead in expanding those and also in directing other BC projects as well. And then Helen and Sharon were brought on to support both groups to expand. Karine, sorry, I forgot to mention, Karine's the Holding Hope BC lead. So Karine, Sharon are your kind of point people for Holding Hope, and Jenny and Helen for Healing Hearts. And then we had an opportunity in 2021 and 22 to explore how we might support our Indigenous communities better. So Sam Bainon, who's getting married today, so she's not here. She's our Indigenous strategy lead. And then very recently, and with gratitude, Jackie Huser has come on to, I'll talk about this a bit more, but to support parents of young people, of youth 12 to 24, specifically in the interior region of BC as a pilot project. So this is us. Next slide, please. I won't go over these in great detail, but these are our existing groups right now. And so there's 18 Holding Hope and 15 Healing Hearts across the province. Many of you might be familiar already. Meets monthly, intimate peer-led groups, safe spaces, like 10 people or so. There's been, times where the group starts to get really big and it needs to split up because it's so important as part of this group that people are able to feel comfortable, and part of that is having a small community. Next slide, please. And I want to highlight just one aspect of our project, which is how we're supporting Indigenous families in BC. This is, it would be great if Sam was here, but I'll just speak on her behalf, and then we'll share contact information if you want to reach out to her after. And so we had a partnership with the First Nations Health Authority here to quote unquote indigenize our resources. And so those are some of the words that they had used. I know it's not really the best word, but at the time we had developed a manual for facilitators on how to start and run their group. FNHA had then reached out and said, we'd love to indigenize this resource for our communities. And so that's where this work had started. We had a working group of elders, knowledge keepers, and other Indigenous families with lived experience, created a new resource called Indigenous Healing Hearts. We're going to be moving forward and doing the same for Holding Hope. And to provide some foundation to this work, had brought on a person to really lead it. So Sam is from Nisga'a Nation here and has been made some incredible strides in this aspect. I also wanted to share this logo. You can't really see it from, it's not super clear, but she's indigenized this logo. So she brought on an artist to kind of change the existing Mom Stop the Harm logo. This is just a draft, but a lot of what we'll be creating is developing resources that resonate with people and are led by our Indigenous communities affected by substance use. Next slide, please. And just quickly, I wanted to share a quick learning because, as you know, a lot of our groups are, formally established. People apply and become facilitators. With Sam, we found that, that relationality was really most important. So she would reach out to friendship centers, other communities, and, host talking circles, grief sharing circles. And there wasn't necessarily a person from that community who became a facilitator, so to speak. Sam would lead those, and over time, these groups would be meeting monthly. So this one's at the Victoria Native Friendship Center. The hope is that eventually she might hand that over to somebody who would be interested, but there's no expectation for someone to take on a role that is daunting and emotionally laborious right from the get-go. And this has been really core to the work because it focuses on building relationships. Next slide, please. And then another great kind of offshoot of what we've been doing is a focus on parents of youth. So Jackie is here today. Jackie is our Interior Holding Hope BC coordinator. Yay. Most of our group members are adults with adult children, but there is a need to support parents of youth as well, 12 to 24. So Interior Health here had reached out to us and said the overdose numbers, the substance use rates among our young people are tragic, and how can we partner to address this in a really focused way. So we are doing a pilot project in partnership with them right now. To not only hold a space within our Holding Hope groups for parents of young people, which is a very different experience than, having a loved one who's older, but also providing some funding for the facilitators to have a more formal role called parent peer supporters. So these people would provide one-on-one support, health systems navigation, go with them to the doctor, the emergency room, not just, or in addition to this monthly emotional support that you would receive from the community. And so this is about 3 months in now. We're iterating and learning, and the hope is that we would sustain this within Interior region and then eventually expand beyond that. Next slide, please. And on that same note, we've actually, heard from other health authorities and partners that we want Mom Stop the Harm to provide more support for youth. And so this incredible graphic here is supposed to articulate that Interior really is a test, and then we'll expand as we learn from it. It's already starting in Vancouver, so Vancouver Coastal Health had reached out and asked to co-facilitate with one of our members a Healing Hearts group just for youth, and so that's just starting now. Next slide, please. I'm mindful of time. I'm just going to rush through this. These are, with gratitude, these are our partners and funders. And so the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions provides our bulk funding. But as the work was starting, we've received some additional funding to focus on these smaller aspects. So Interior Health for the youth piece, and then First Nations Health Authority for the indigenizing of the resources. Next slide, please. These are some of the trainings we offered in the last year. And next slide, Dwayne. And these are the ones that are coming up. So these are, as Antoinette had alluded to, available for facilitators and also members to really build that capacity to lead a group in a meaningful way. And next slide, please. And lastly, I think, Antoinette kind of expected this from me too, but just really wanted to plug or invite folks to consider becoming a facilitator. We all know that there needs to be more support within the community, and these are some of the benefits that current facilitators have brought forward that we wanted to share with you as something to sit with. And so I think different from, a support group that might be led by a clinician, for example, peer support groups really are mutually beneficial. The facilitator gets as much from it as the members do. You're not providing counseling, you're providing community and relationality. Next slide, please. And if you would like, this is how to get involved. And you can also talk to Jenny, Kareen, Helen, Jackie, and Sharon today about it if this is of interest to you. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Katie. So you have the contact information if you are looking for information about Stronger Together Canada. And of course, to fund all these programs, we need money. And we've been very fortunate to get government support both in BC as well as from the federal government. But with that funding comes accountability, and about that financial accountability, we will have Stu Jennings, who is our acting treasurer, speak to that. And we also have a slide where we share the overview of the financial statements. There will be another poll to approve the financial statements. And Shauna, if at the end of the poll, if you could post the results, and also if people in the room would show by show of hands that you approve the statements. And our secretary is in the room, fortunately, Charlene Macon, and Charlene will count the votes in person. So for now, over to you, Stu Jennings.
Thank you. It gives me some pleasure to present the financial condition of the Society. One of the things you should understand that the financial statements that you have are not audited. The organization is required to have an audit now, and that audit is underway as we speak. It's not finalized, so the statements that you're getting are the ones that the auditors are working on and auditing. I do have a copy of the draft audited statements that essentially are the same. The presentation, though, is slightly different. If you look at the balance sheet that you may have with you, we're showing $530,000 plus of cash in the bank, a small receivable and prepaids. Their audited statements will look exactly the same as that, with the same numbers. Where there's a slight difference is they have changed the account payable by adding $14,000 worth of accrued audit fees, which is their, I guess, anticipated fee, which is appropriate. So that's the most significant change, other than the presentation. The way I had presented it, we showed the grant funds, which is what you have just been talking about, the Stronger Together from both Canada and BC, shown separately. They show those monies as deferred revenue because they haven't been spent yet. We have are holding it almost in trust these amounts of money to use for these programs. So, but the audited statements, when they come out, will look slightly different than the ones that you're now looking at. You can see from the cash, the comparative numbers over the years, we've gone from $67,000 in the bank up to $538,000. That's obviously from the grants for Stronger Together are the most significant part. Although the other thing that has increased is public support to Mom Stop the Harm in the general funds. In 2018, it was 11,000 or 12,000. 2021, it's 108,000, or sorry, 62,000. So, we've gone from small, and it's the public obviously is supporting us, and hopefully, as we become a charitable organization, which we're in the process of doing, those public funds will become even more significant and allow the expansion, I guess, of the group generally. I'm not too sure what else needs to be highlighted. We're in good financial shape as we speak. I think that on a go-forward basis, this will be even better as the Stronger Together program expands, and as long as government, I guess, supports. I think you're on the right track. I would certainly entertain answering any specific questions that people have related to these financial statements.
Thank you for that, Stu. If there are no questions at this point, and they can also come after the fact if anybody has any specific questions, then can we have somebody move to approve the financial statements and somebody second?
Hey, Marie here. I move to approve the 2021 financial statements.
Yeah. And seconder?
Isabelle Fortier, who's going to second that.
Okay, thank you, Isabel. In addition to those voting on Zoom, sorry, I forgot earlier that those of you in the room, you vote by show of hands, and Charlene will count those votes. Charlene Lacan, our secretary. So be sure to do by show of hands or by the Zoom vote. And Shauna, if you could please display or announce in chat the results. Okay, so the financial statements are approved. Thank you for that.
We're going to vote in the room as well, Petra. If you'll just give us a moment, we have to count. So you have three options: in favor, against, and you may abstain. So anyone who's a member can have one of those three options, and if none of those fit you, you can just do nothing, and that's all right as well. So we'll first count for all those in favor of the motion to accept what was just presented. I'm counting 25 in favor, so we're close. And we're going to go with those against accepting the financial statements as presented. Please raise your hands now. I see 0. And the third option, you may abstain by raising your hand. Would you like to abstain? We have no abstentions from that. So the vote in this, we have one abstention, and that is noted. Thank you. So we're good in the room.
Thank you for that. The next is, as Stu mentioned, we now, because of the amount of funding we get through federal and provincial grants, we have exceeded the threshold where we need to report and we need to get audited financial statements. And we have obtained the services of Baker Tilly, WM LLP from Vancouver. And I would like to ask somebody to move to approve Baker Tilly LLP as our auditor for the 2021 fiscal year. Somebody could move, and somebody second, please.
Missy McCain, I'll move.
Thank you, Missy. Seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you, Stu. The poll, please, Shauna. And Charlene?
In the room, can we have those in favor of accepting Baker Tilly? Raise your hands, please. We have 23 votes in favor in the room. Those against accepting Baker Tilly as our auditor for the 2021 financial year, please raise your hands now. We have 0 against in the room, and those of you who would like to abstain from the vote on Baker Tilly, please raise your hands now. We have 2 abstentions in the room.
Thank you for that, Charlene. So we have approval then for Baker Tilly to audit our financial statements. The next item is our new bylaws. Our first bylaws were really very rudimentary, covering what we needed to get going as an organization, but we have grown, we have changed, there are things we want to do. One of the big items we want to do is we want to apply to have charitable status. We have not-for-profit status, hence the audited financial statements, but we want to gain charitable status so we can give people receipts for their charitable donations. There are certain requirements we had to meet with our bylaws that are now before you for approval. One thing the bylaws will also allow us is to finally move forward with chapters and have chapter agreements with groups who want to form Stop the Harm chapters, either regionally or provincially. And what we are really hoping to have is a long-term sustainable organizational structure. And what that includes is board terms for the same first time. So board members, instead of electing a slate every time, a full slate, we are electing now a new slate of board members that are standing this year for a 2-year term. And that 2-year term can be renewed once, which means a board member can be a maximum of 4 years. Marie and I, for example, we are the last remaining board members who were there when the organization was founded as a society. And Marie's and my term will end in 2023. And then we will always have terms moving forward. Board members can stand for election again after a year, after their 4-year term has ended. So these are just some of the big highlights, but you saw that you had the opportunity to review the bylaws. Now I would ask someone to move to approve the bylaws and somebody to second.
Marie here, I move to approve the bylaws.
Seconder.
Missy McLean, I'll move to second.
Missy, thank you. And
Petra, we're just going to move to perhaps discuss the bylaws if there was any discussion from the floor before we take to the vote. Is that good for you? Okay. Is there any discussion about the changes to the bylaws or any questions that anyone has about why we're doing it the way we're doing it and what we're missing? So I do see one hand here. So we're going to have a little bit of discussion from the floor here in the live venue.
Hi, it's Julie Cochran. I have a few comments. First of all, I've been reading through the different differentiations between all the different types of members, but nowhere else in the document does it discern which, it only just talks about members. So it doesn't discern which members are able to do what. The other thing is the roles for the regional chapters. First of all, it says regional chapters are accountable to the chair. And my question is, why not to the board rather than, having the one individual overseeing that? And the other thing is, under the terms and conditions under the regional chapters, it says each chapter shall be established by the board, and any proposed amendments must be brought to the board for approval prior to taking that effect. And it says the governing documents of each regional chapter shall be established by the board. So my question is why each chapter can't create their own governments and guidelines, because every region has their own needs.
Okay. Maybe I'll start with the first one, Charlene, if that is okay. In terms of the governance structure, what we will have in place, we look, for example, to the Canadian Students for Sensible Drug Policy. They have chapters, and they have a chapter agreement, because each chapter has to be aligned with the mission, vision, and values of Mom Stop the Harm, and accountable to whatever bodies we have to be accountable to for budgeting, for example, how fundraising is handled and such. And therefore, we will develop one chapter agreement that chapters will need to abide by in order to become a chapter. They will be very simple agreements. The chapters can, within the agreement, govern themselves. This is not in a way to control the chapters, but to make sure that the chapters are in alignment. And I had extensive conversations with the board of the Canadian Students of Sensible Drug Policy a couple of years back when we looked at chapters at first, and they said having consistent chapter agreements are very important to avoid chapters going off in a direction that is not in keeping with the mission, vision, and values, and also to make sure that everyone is accountable within. In terms of the chapter reporting to the chair, the way the document is drafted, we had it drafted by a lawyer, and there are some legal reasons for having certain flows of responsibility. The chair is ultimately accountable to the entire board. The chair does not act in isolation. So if chapters are accountable to the chair, they are accountable to the board. But if you say in writing accountable to the board, the person might not know who they address it to immediately, but there's always a chair. There might be there will probably be specific suggestions within the chapter agreements. In terms of the members, types of membership, already all along we had members who are just joining who are joining predominantly for support. And then we have members who are joining as advocates. That's always been that way. That's what you do on your membership agreement. In addition, now with this new bylaw, we need to have paying society members. These are people who renew their membership every year, and those society members will have the ability to vote. And basically, the society membership will be open to those active within Mom Stop the Harm. We haven't worked out the detail on the membership yet, but that is definitely the direction that we will be going. And that again is something we have to do to fulfill that legal requirement. And you also, when you have membership, you have to keep in mind to get quorums. We have people who join us, they are on Facebook, they get our support, and it's really, really important to them. But we have over 3,500 members on the book, and we have 37 in chat. We have 80, we have maybe 40 in the room, I'm not sure. So maximum, we have 100 members here. So you can't declare 3,500 people society members if you only have 100 showing up to important events like this AGM. So basically, the people who show an interest to be activist advocates and society in the activities of the society can then obtain a society membership. So I hope that explains those points.
Actually, I understand the role and the need for different memberships, but in the actual document, it doesn't discern what member can do what. It just talks about as the document goes on and the different things that members can do. It doesn't discern whether that's a voting member or an advocacy member or any member or anything like that.
It says that the society members are voting members. It says that in the bylaws.
But what the actual document doesn't distinguish between that.
The document states that society members are voting members, and you have to become a society member. We don't have that membership class yet. We will roll that out. And those people who become society members, they will be voting members.
One of the other points is the cost of publishing proposals for annual members meetings. It says the member who submitted the proposal shall pay the cost of including the proposal. That sounds like a barrier of bringing forward issues.
This is just if people, if it's something that needs to be printed, for example, in 1,000 copies. And again, this is kind of a standard clause that the lawyer suggested we include. Most of the time we share information via PDF. And so that is not an issue.
Well, there's nothing in there to say what the cost would be. Would it be $10? Would it be $100? Would it be $1,000? So just reading it that way, to me, that would may provide a question for someone whether they should even bring something forth if they are going to bear a cost for it.
The cost of publishing, if you need to print something to disseminate, and the cost of that would depend on how many prints. This is kind of for societies where people, maybe thousands of people, where you need to issue something on paper. There's no cost associated with sharing things as a PDF online.
Just thinking maybe those kinds of things need to be put in there for clarification.
We will provide further clarification through policies as we roll out the new terms of reference. And we got an advice from a lawyer, and we really needed to include this to get approval as a society and to get charitable status. So those are the clauses that we included in this. And there's things we may have to adjust in future. And if that is the case, then we'll bring it to next year's AGM and make changes. But this is kind of what our lawyer has suggested we move forward with, so we can move forward with the application for charitable status. I understand that there are things that aren't 100% answered. The board has done a lot of work on this. We've spent many hours, many meetings. Jenny has worked very hard with the lawyer. The document went back and forth between Jenny and I many, many times. I'm sure there are things that we need to iron out as we go along, but this is what we have before us now to vote on and allow us to move forward with the all-important charitable application, which we need to support our work. Are there any other questions?
Hi, it's Leslie Petra. I just want to ask then, you said that the bylaws then are not written in stone except for this year, and then we can re-examine it at the next AGM and make changes, but we can't make changes this year because here we are. Am I just understanding that right?
This is what's before us right now. This is a draft. We shared this quite some time ago. Like this email went out 3 weeks ago with people with the bylaws. And so this is what we have before us now. And because bylaw changes require the vote of the membership, after we vote for this, there won't be any changes until we can vote again.
Which would be at the next AGM. That's what my question was.
In which case we can hold a special membership meeting.
So the option, for example, if we were to vote down the bylaws today, which I hope we don't do because it really is an important next step for this organizational growth that we're experiencing, because we're experiencing membership growth and because of the need to do more advocacy, really. We can have a special meeting just to deal with bylaws. It's just hard to get people to come and vote on something like that, but it's not that it has to go to next year. That would be one option. The other option is that the board would call a special meeting just to vote on the bylaws, so just to deal with the bylaws. But whatever concerns you bring up now too, as Petra mentioned, and I'll underline, now, once we have bylaws, we have to go through policy making, which is, I love board work and I like doing that kind of stuff, but that's the kind of stuff that you give to the board and just let them work at it, and then they bring it to you and you say more like this, less like that. But the policy making will be where we can nuance and explain things like what expenses there could possibly be by bringing forward motions to the board, or what the different kinds of membership will be able to do and take on. So those can be addressed in policy things that are much easier to deal with and don't require a meeting of the entire membership at an annual general meeting.
Yeah, thank you for that. So unless there are any more questions, I don't see any questions on Zoom, because I've also been informed that we have to end promptly at 10:30 Pacific. So I might have to cut some agenda items short because we started late and then had some, some things took a little longer. So if we could, if somebody could, we had people move, if we can repeat those motions, if somebody can move and second, we repeat that. Oh, 12:30 Pacific, sorry.
Marie
ending.
moved it here.
Marie moved it, and was Missy who seconded? Is that correct? Is that correct, Charlene? Yeah, Missy, you seconded?
And then
Yes, I do, Petra.
Okay, Missy is doing double duty. Okay.
Sorry, I'm getting some stories here from my son.
Oh, good, good. So Charlene, if you could carefully count in the room the votes.
For all in favor of accepting the bylaws as they are, please raise your hands now. I count 19 votes in favor of accepting the bylaws. Those who would like to reject this motion, please raise your hand now. I see one vote against, and those who would like to abstain from the bylaw vote. I count 6 people, 6 abstentions.
Thank you for that, Charlene. And 100% approval on Zoom. Together with our charitable application, we had to change our purpose statement, just rewording it, updating it, and finding a language that our lawyer felt was would work favorably for us. So that purpose statement was also shared with you by email when you received the invitation and is posted on the website. If we could, if somebody could move to approve the purpose statement for Mom Stop the Harm.
Would we be able to read out that purpose statement?
I'm sorry, we can't. I would love to. That was my plan, but I've been informed that our tech support will cut off strictly at 12:30. And yeah, we started late. I want to go through get through the full agenda. So who moved? Marie moved. Who would like to second? Everybody had access to it before the meeting.
So we have someone in the room who would like to move that. We have Emily Beaudeschamps who would like to move acceptance.
Emily, perfect. Seconder.
The room as well. We have Isabelle Fortier who would like to second.
Thank you so much for that, Emily and Isabel. Can we have a poll, please, and count in the room?
All those in favor of the motion as it stands, which is to adapt the purpose statement to the one that you've been able to read, please raise your hands now if you're in favor of this motion. I have 22 in favor of the motion in the room. All those against accepting the motion as it stands, which is to change the purpose statement, please raise your hands now if you're against the motion. I count 0 in the room against the motion, and those who would like to abstain, please raise your hands now. We have 1 abstention.
For that. Okay, on to the next agenda item. We'd like to acknowledge our outgoing board members, and if we could please have the slide up for that. I'd like to begin by thanking Angela Wells, my fellow Alberta board member. Sometimes I call Angela the right side of my brain. She makes sure I remember things and get stuff done. And she tells me to calm down when I get too emotional. Angela joined after she lost her sweet, lovely daughter, Zoe. And Angela is the one who told me we need grief support. And I said, no, Angela, we don't need grief support. We need to do advocacy. We need to change things. And she said, you can't change things if you're not well. So I will remember that forever. And I know that Angela, while stepping down from the board, will still have an important role. She looks after almost all of our social media and does an admirable job in that. Angela helps us in newsletter. She helps with the transition to the Better Impact software. And has just been an outstanding person and a hard worker on the board. And I will just miss her more than words can say, but thank you, Angela, for all the work that you've done with the board. Next, I'd like to thank Christine. Christine Wingate. Christine joined us from Ontario and really put Ontario on the map for us. Sheila Jennings had begun that work. Sheila and Christine were a powerful team together. Then Sheila and Missy, and now we will have Rose John from Ontario. Christine started the advocacy Facebook page as well as the advocacy meetings. She really pushed the agenda in Ontario and really continued the groundwork that Sheila had done. There's much to do. I have learned that Ontario is a huge province and it's a lot of work for 2 people to cover. And I want to really thank Christine, again, a hardworking, committed board member who was always there and ready to do some of the boring work too, which, well, Charlene doesn't find policy writing boring, but some of us do. So really thank Christine for that, and also will miss Christine immensely on the board already. Feel that, but look forward to the new board members. Now I'd like to hand it over to Charlene for 2 thank you messages.
Able to hear from one of the experts among us, and that was Kevin Hollett, who talked about, really convinced me of the importance of communication. I was convinced anyway, but if you don't have that expertise, if there's no one kind of looking out for that, then it just falls through the cracks. And Andy Watson was able to join our board and able to provide advice and insight into how the media works and how messaging works and how we could really improve our communications. Andy, unfortunately, that particular talent is very in demand, and Andy's leaving our board now after 1 year. So I want to give him a great round of applause and a thank you for being with us for that time. And this one's harder. When I first came into Mom Stop the Harm, so I lost Archie, my son, died. He was 19 years old, and he died in a bar in downtown Montreal. And, you know, as devastated as I was, I reached out like almost immediately to Mom Stop the Harm and had that, like, I got to do something feeling. And there were some people already in Montreal doing something. And one of them was Isabelle Fortier. It's going to be hard to say you're not on the board anymore. But one of the great things about this kind of work is it's not like we go anywhere, right? We're just going to do a different role, and we're still going to kick up shit, right? We're still going to get out there and do the work that needs to be done. So Isabelle joined the board just before me and was able to serve a 2-year term on the board. And when I first met her in downtown Montreal at one of these international, I almost said AIDS awareness. That was a lifetime ago, right? But one of these international overdose awareness days, wow, was I blown away. She's an amazing advocate on the ground, and she knows everybody. The beautiful thing about Montreal is that there is a community, much like here in Vancouver, that is getting together and rocking some ships and doing good work. The hard thing about Quebec is the stigma is brutal, and it is very, very, very hard to reach suburban moms in that environment. But she... at that event, Isabelle knew everybody. She was up on the stage, and what a great advocate for Mom Stop the Harm. Thank you for your work on the board, Isabelle.
Thank you so much for that, Charlene. Now I'd like to ask Marie to thank 2 more very, very special people who joined the board with us.
Hey, everybody. You know, you almost feel like you're saying goodbye forever, but you know that it's just off the board, and everybody's roles of being an active person and trying to create a better life for people who use drugs. They're going to be there. However, it's crazy that we've already moved past board commitments when we all started in that little hotel room in Kelowna in 2016. First of all, Deb Bailey. Deb lost their beautiful daughter, Ola, as Izzy, as we came to know her. I think she was only 21 years old, and it was in 2015. And she was always an advocate prior to that, and just became a powerhouse advocate afterwards, from protesting and working with people who use drugs down in the heart of Vancouver, and going and having visits to provincial policymakers' offices uninvited. You know, Deb's calm and gentle but forceful demeanor had me, and I'm sure all of us, learned something. You know, right from the get-go, her knowledge in establishing bylaws and working actually for Adler School of Psychology. She brought with her a wealth of knowledge and experience in humans and in policy and establishment of nonprofits. So we were really, really lucky to have Deb on the board, and I hope to get out to BC soon so that I can see everybody's faces when I won't see them online anymore. So to Deb, thank you so much for everything that you've done for this organization, and I hope to see you. We all hope to see you soon. So thank you, Deb. We miss you. Now, last but not least, Leslie. What can I say? Leslie lost their beautiful son, Jordan. He was 25 years old, number of years ago, to, of course, a fatal drug poisoning. And with that loss came to us a woman who, everything from Save the Beavers, I think there was a Save the Beavers, to whatever it's needed. She's been an advocate for nature and humankind and the goodness that all that the world has to offer. That has been Leslie. And she and Petra and Lorna came together, and I remember getting a phone call those years ago saying, hey, this is who I am. I can't remember which one of you, I think it was Leslie, phoned me. Could have been Petra, Leslie. And she's just, listen, this is what we're doing. Are you interested in helping out? It was a bunch of us crazy moms going nuts on our local news stations and across Canada, and anybody that would listen, because we couldn't believe the failing policy and why our kids were dying so unnecessarily, and your kids were dying, and so little seemed to have been, it was being done. So these women got us together, and who I met in Leslie, and we all met, was one of the strongest voices of advocacy this country has ever seen, where with respect to drug policy and drug reform. She has such a nonsensical way and passionate, loving way of purveying her message. And she opens up every door from organizations that serve our communities most marginalized to the largest offices in Canada, which I think she knew that if I knew what she knew now, she'd probably chain herself to their desks given the opportunity. She was able to attend she was a delegation member with the other ladies, the co-founders, at a United Nations delegation, I guess part of the Canadian delegation that went to a large conference on drug policy and drug reform in the world at the United Nations. And my favorite phrases from Leslie are raise shit and go rogue. You know, should we do it? Do it, go rogue. Love her. For all that you have done to help make life better for people who use drugs in this country, for help healing the hearts or at least not healing the hearts, healing is too big a word, to help provide the hearts of families suffering with this plight and plague of drug use and overdose that's so readily ignored, and helping give us somewhere to land. You know, through the different organizations that have been developed over the years. So love you, lady, love you large, and thank you so much for all the work that you have done to help us be who we are today. Mwah.
Thank you so much for that, Marie. And thank you to those who now step down from our board: Christine, Angela, Angie, Isabel, Deb, and Leslie. You've done an amazing job. You'll be missed. I was remiss in saying Christine lost her son, Shane. That was what brought her to us, and all these board members. And for me, it's especially difficult to see board members go who were there with Marie and I from the start. We sort of feel like the old guard a bit. Yeah, last one standing from that original team. So, but as we move on, I'd like to introduce the returning board members for this year. We have a slide for that. I was hoping to have people introduce themselves in person, and I'm very, very sorry that we won't be able to do that because the time constraints that we have. So we have our board candidates and our current board members on the website. So we have the returning board members. The executive is myself, board chair for one more year. Marie Adjuritis, vice chair for one more year. Charlene Vacan is secretary. Annie Story is treasurer on leave. Stuart Jennings is the acting treasurer. Then we have board members at large: Willie McCorson from Saskatchewan. I should say Marie's from Saskatchewan, Charlene is Quebec, Annie BC, Stuart BC, I'm in Alberta. Willie's Saskatchewan, Arlene Kolb in Manitoba, Missy McLean in Ontario, and Emily Beaudeschamps, she's also in the room. She's from one of our Atlantic region board members. New Brunswick. I hope I'm right, Emily. If not, I apologize. Our board candidates, and that will be the next slide, please. Our board candidates are Jeremy Callison from BC, Tracy Letts, Doreen Laughlin from Alberta, Tamara Talio from I don't know how to pronounce your last name properly, Rose. Delisley. And Michelle Cleary here from also Atlantic. Michelle is in Newfoundland. So those are our board members standing for election. We now have a vote to elect that slate of new candidates. We elect the full slate of candidates that the board recommends. I've been told there is no way to abstain in the Zoom vote, but if you submit without checking something off, I don't know, no, you can't submit. So I'm sorry, that is something we need to address next time. You have to either vote yes or no. So please, Charlene, if you could count the votes in the room.
So we're voting for the slate of candidates that you saw, all at one package deal. And all those in favor, please raise your hand now. I count 26 for the motion to accept these board candidates. Those against the motion, please raise your hand now. I count 0 against the motion, and those who would like to abstain, please raise your hand now. I count 0 abstentions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'd like to welcome our new board candidates, board members, welcome you to the year ahead and the work that lays before us, and want to really thank you for putting your name forward. Our board works very, very hard. Now, one last thing that is actually not on the agenda, because some people you can't keep secrets from. And this is also something that Charlene will present. We have Jenny Howard, our first ever staff member that we had, who's been our fearless and tireless program manager for all this time. Jennifer is switching over to the Stronger Together BC team. She will leave her role as program manager for all of society. Some of you might have seen we are advertising for an executive director now. And I want to take this opportunity, and I think Charlene has something. I want to take this opportunity to thank Jenny for all that she has done. Jenny is really the architect behind much of the hard work, like the application to become charitable, for our strategic plan, for our new bylaws and all this. She's done a lot of work behind the scene, and it needs to be acknowledged. Jenny, if you could come up to the front to Charlene, please, who is going to present a small token of appreciation on behalf of our board of directors. And we have good team members. Thank you, Corinne. People can keep a secret. Thank you, Jenny. Next.
Sorry. Petra, we do have one thing here in the, I don't want to miss this before we end. We do have to do a very quick draw. And I'm just going to do 3 names because we have t-shirts that we'd like to give away. The first person that will receive a t-shirt is Lee Porter. So we'll be getting you the t-shirts. We will not expect you to come and try to find it. We'll send it along to you. So Lee Porter will be getting a t-shirt, as will Dean Bargery. And one more t-shirt will go to Pam Young. So look forward to those coming in the mail.
And if you wonder how the t-shirt looks like, you saw it on Katie when she was speaking. And we also have a slide with the t-shirt, I believe. Yeah, thank you for that, Charlene. Next, we have a brief update on our strategic plan, on things that we have done and hope to do. And I'm really pleased. You can see the strategic plan is also, a summary of it is also linked. And can we have that strategic plan slide, please? A summary of it is also linked on our website. Arlene or Charlene, who's speaking to actions that are planned? Just really quickly. You have a minute each or 2.
I can speak really quickly. Mom Stop the Harm now has a national action committee. We will do plans on doing national action across Canada. Our Poppy Seed was one of our first events. We have lots of plans coming up for August, and we will post and give everybody information as we go along. Thanks.
That was great. Thank you, Arlene. And thank you for the great work of that committee. And if anybody's interested in that committee, email us at info@. Angela, you were going to give a brief update on Bill C-216 and C-5.
Hi, everybody. So I'm presenting a report on behalf of Catherine Steinhoff, who initiated some really strong, powerful campaigns for us over the last few years. The first one she did was on municipality resolution, where we sent an information to our municipal governments and asked them to support the MSTH resolution, which was essentially to have the federal government declare a overdose crisis and a public health, to declare the overdose crisis a public health emergency, and to develop a pan-Canadian action plan that would give consideration to legal regulation of drugs. As of today, with Catherine and Steinhoff and Christine Wingate's work and members of Stop the Harm, we have 60 municipalities who have done that, from Daniels Harper, Newfoundland, all the way to Victoria, BC. So it's a wonderful way to bring your municipalities into this kind of support. We still encourage members and anybody interested to connect with their municipalities and get that resolution going. As well, Catherine did a lot of work on Bill C-216 along with Diana Daghofer in BC with the petition. Sadly, I think we all know that C-216 was defeated, but we still do encourage people to connect with their MPs, especially those who voted against. It's also really important to engage with those who voted yes, and let them know how encouraged you are with their vote. I've just popped the link in the chat about more information on the vote. And on that link, there is a link where you can get all the MPs who voted no and the MPs who voted yes. So please take a moment to send your thoughts to them, good or bad. Bill C-5, which is the act to amend the Criminal Code and the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, was something that we tackled on a federal level. And we feel that Bill C-5 falls short of effectively addressing the ongoing drug poisoning crisis that has killed so many of our loved ones since 2016. So we firmly believe that we need to decriminalize personal possession and substances and social trafficking if we are ever going to adequately address the overdose and drug poisoning crisis. So we're still going to continue to do what we can on that regard. If anybody has any information or wants, more information on these items, send us an email at info@momstoptheharm, and one of us will get to you with whatever your questions are. Hopefully that addresses those issues. Thanks, Petra.
Thank you, Angela. I'd really like to highlight once again the work that Catherine Steinhoff has done. She's one of our active members in Ontario. She's not a board member. She's taken this project on, and she pushes us along if we don't quite see the direction we need to go in. She's very skilled in that area. We appreciate that. Other areas where we've done work is we worked on forwarding the issue of safe supply. But Leslie and I had an opportunity to meet with Minister Carolyn Bennett earlier this year. And in that meeting, she said, if you want to talk safe supply, I'll meet with you anytime. And Leslie and we could not resist that offer. So we got together with the Canadian Drug Policy Coalition, and we had a roundtable on safe supply that we soon hope to have a part two to. It's a discussion where we invite people from led by people who use and have used drugs and their organizations. We really look for representation from across the country. It's not a public event. We try to have frank and open discussions with the minister by keeping it kind of a semi-private event, and we'll keep you posted on more in regards to that. The other thing that has happened this year is recognition of our work. We are called all kinds of things online, especially those of us who live and work in Alberta. But this year, the Canadian Public Health Association has awarded us a 2020 Canadian Public Health Heroes Award. And that was a really, really wonderful recognition, especially in the year of COVID, that our cause got that level of recognition rather than something related to COVID, for example. So we really, really appreciated them shining the light. I said to them, often it seems like we walk in darkness, but somebody shines a light on the work that we do. And that was really shining the light is what we did. Other areas we did in working in our strategic plan, we have our membership software called Better Impact. If you received an email from Jenny or Shauna or Angela inviting you to join Better Impact, please do. It's a software that we switched to better track our members and engage with you, know what your skills are, where we can find you and such. So if you haven't signed up yet, if you go to the join page on our website, if somebody could pop that into chat, it's just like you do a join again, but we know that you're not a new join. We double check each one. Then we have your information in our Better Impact software. All new joins are in Better Impact right now. And it's safer, it's more secure as we are growing, and it is in keeping with all the legislation, which is so important. Katie and Antoinette and Isabel talked about our expansion of our programs, which has been huge this year. BC is forging forward. I'm nudging the federal government to see if we can get some program expansion. We have some ideas of things we'd like to do. But there are also things where we fall short. And one area where we fall short, and that might be obvious, that was obvious earlier when we did our land acknowledgement, and it's obvious if you look around the room in this Zoom, we fall short in equity, diversity, and inclusion. And those are areas where we hope to actively recruit for our staff, for our board, for our membership, to be part of a diverse community. We also have to get better at sharing our workload. There's much work to be done. And just like Catherine Steinhoff, just take something and forges ahead with it. You don't have to have a special role. If you want an event happening for the International Overdose Awareness Day, organize it. We'll give you pointers. Anybody can do it. And that's what makes us strong, the members that do the work. We've done our t-shirt draw. We have a few minutes left, and I'm really pleased that we will have closing remarks from Leslie McBain, as she is our past board chair, and her term on the board ended this year. So Leslie, I'd like to hand it over to you. And then if whoever has the controls for technology just pipes in when we need to cut off, so we can have a motion. And if two people could be ready to move to adjourn after Leslie's closing remarks, which have to be very brief.
Okay, here we go. Thank you, Petra, and that's really shows that the structure of Mum Stop the Harm is important. These things seem a little displaced from what we've been doing during this conference, but if we don't have a structure, and if we don't have the bylaws, and if we don't have policies in place, we could fall apart. Although I kind of think at this point we're too big to fail, in that famous phrase. I hope that we will have more discussion on the bylaws and the chapters at some point soon. But yeah, in the interest of time, we're going to have to shut her down very quickly. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your attention to these details. And thanks for continuing to think about advocacy. We've had a tremendous amount of advocacy information and wisdom and education in these last couple of days. So I guess really without further ado, I would say raise shit. I would say, wear your T-shirt. I would say go rogue when you can, with staying within the, whatever the rules. And we hope, and now I see here it says somewhere, where did I see it, that we hope that the next AGM would be on the prairies. But I think, Petra, you changed that idea to let's have the AGM online in the spring when it usually is, like now, or earlier. And then we will have a conference possibly in Ottawa and figure out some, maybe we'll go to jail. Who knows? I mean, I think I have good. So hopefully we'll be able to go to Ottawa and make some noise. Anyway, thanks everyone for being here. Thank you, Petra, for coming in from Germany. Have I forgotten anything? I think that's good. Charlene. What? To adjourn. Oh, Charlene, come on up. Do your thing. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. I'd just like to move to adjourn the 2021 AGM.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Can I get a seconder? We've got everyone seconding. That's great. We'll go with Isabel.
That's it. That's it. Thanks, everybody. Bye for now. Bye, Petra.